Togruta are one of the most visually striking alien species in all of Star Wars. They were first introduced in Attack of the Clones, where they were represented by the Jedi Master Shaak Ti and youngling Ashla. With vibrant skin, white face markings, curved horns and 3 striped head tails, these elements were so distinctive. The 14-year-old casual Star Wars fan I was in 2008 saw the poster to the Clone Wars and said, "Oh hey, it's one of those ladies from the films." Star Wars has never been the product of a sole creative. It's always been collaborative. For example, George Lucas created C-3PO, Ralph McQuarrie conceptualized him, and sculptor Liz Moore made the look we know and love. For the Togruta, Dermot Power sketched a new alien villain for the film, which was turned into a Jedi and made by costume and makeup designers. The makeup was modified for the sequel, and the writers of the book, The New Essential Guide to Alien Species, seem to compare their look to tigers, giving them an ancestral past as predators on their homeworld of Sheely. I long thought of Sheely as a world of vibrant plant life, similar to the Togruta's coloration, but it would go on to appear in the Tales of the Jedi series, where it ended up resembling the Pacific Northwest. I suppose it makes sense. Orange tigers do blend into green environments after all, and maybe their prey couldn't see shades of red. Of course, that's if the designers behind the Tales series even knew that fact about the Togruta to begin with. Details of designs and the rationales behind them can easily fall through the cracks and create contradictions even with the sole creative, not to mention when many people are working on one series. Of course, the biggest representative of the Togruta species is Ahsoka Tano. I've talked about Ahsoka at length, and you can see that in my videos here, with the immensely skilled cosplayer, Ashla's workshop, giving her expertise on Ahsoka's translation. The reason I'm making this video is to talk about the original Ashla. She is a bit of an oddity. A computer-generated model, superimposed over a real child, because you can't go putting that much makeup on a real kid for production. Her coloration resembles Shaak Ti, but based on the action figure released at the time, she only has 2 head tails, and the stripes stop at this segment. She has these weird ridges on her throat. I thought this was a detail that was also on Shaak Ti, but it doesn't seem to be there. There's only a slight suggestion with shading, and I might be thinking of some fan art or something I saw over the years. What's more, this detail is totally absent in later iterations of the character. It looks like the difference between the hard horns or montrals and the softer head tails is present on Ashla, but the separation between the 2 elements looks more like the horns of an Iktochi, like Shaak Ti. In fact, it looks almost exactly like that. The way the horns jut out from the sides of the head matches the shape seen on Tin, rather than the ones on Shaak Ti. We've seen Togruta from cradle to 1 foot in the grave, not to be crude, and know their horns are soft and rounded from birth and grow with age. Ahsoka's horns remain small into her early teens when we first meet her. Of course, those designs and bits of lore came out many years after Attack of the Clones, and Ashla is the first example of a Togruta on screen. But Ashla's helmet here sits very low on her head, as if the horns were really tiny or non-existent, like the top of her head was flat, as it is on the action figure. There is the possibility that the horns were excluded on this small toy so the helmet would fit, but was Ashla initially intended to be the same species as Shaak Ti, but retextured to be the same species as Shaak Ti instead? Because I've been looking at the highest resolution frames of the film as I can get, brightening the image, and the segmentation on Ashla really doesn't look like Shaak Ti's. It doesn't even have the stripes on it. Reverting the brightness and saturation to how it was originally, I went about colour picking the highlights on the different parts. It's not an exact science, but it does seem the upper parts are a more orange-red, and the lower parts more yellow, like the lighter parts are on the face, and there's clearly no stripes on the upper bit. My initial theory when I saw those details was that Ashla was wearing a twi'lek-style headsock over her horns, rather than there being these weird tubes on the side of her head that the head tails grew out of. I think this segmentation that has long confused fans, trying to reconcile Ashla's appearance with Ahsoka's, is not only them confusing some headwear for their anatomy, could also be because Ashla's CGI model is a recolor of an entirely different species. I wanted to make this video for a long time. My initial sketches of Ashla looking at this headwear theory date back to January 2025, and it's only in April 2026 as I sat down to write this. I noticed how much this Togruta looked like a painted Iktochi, a species of alien from the Phantom Menace that I've long overlooked, but I think definitely deserve their time in the spotlight. Despite this potential Ashla revelation, and the discrepancies in her appearance from the other Togruta, she is still meant to be a Togruta, so I wanted to draw her as if she is one. I've given her the correct number of head tails and very small rounded horns, similar in structure to Ahsoka's in the Clone Wars. The split between the hard horns and the soft head tails is up above her ears, or where her ears should be. And here she is in her cap. There's 2 pant legs, if you could call them that she tucks her head tails through before fastening it at the back of her neck. So there's this artwork from 2009 or 2010 that I highlighted in my Ahsoka videos. It does somehow make Ahsoka's costume even more revealing, but it's got some pretty awesome details elsewhere. Like, this is probably one of the more accurate interpretations of Anakin's Clone Wars outfit, but that's a topic for another video. As for Ahsoka, it actually features the horn separation, the segmentation, placed almost exactly where it's seen on Shaak Ti. And then there's this costume performer from the Disney Star Wars weekends from 2009, and this costumed model at the premiere of the Clone Wars movie in 2008. They both feature lines representing the segmentation between the horns and the head tails. And how about this? Grainy concept art and screenshots from the final season of the Clone Wars, with clear segmentation on Ahsoka's horns. Curious, isn't it, that they saw fit to include it, but the live action didn't. It's a shame. Anyway, thank you for watching. What do you think of this theory/potential revelation? Was Ashla a recolor of a different species, or was she just designed like that for simplicity? She's only in 4 shots in the final film, with 1 hero shot, stage right, and considering how much work was needed for the rest of the film, I'd understand if corners were cut. It's interesting that Ashla was the original name for Ahsoka. Perhaps the two were intended to be the same, maybe it was just a placeholder name. But if they went that route, maybe Rosario Dawson could have looked like this instead. But anyway, I'm Royce, and I'll see you next time.